Welcome to the Caddo Convos, the podcast that explores the vibrant community of businesses thriving in Caddo Office Reimagined. We're here to shine a light on the incredible entrepreneurs and professionals who make the most of our private offices, co-working spaces, and day office rentals in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs. Join us as we share their stories, celebrate their successes, and dive into the benefits of working in a space that's close to home but offers so much more than working from home. Let's get started with today's conversation. Joining me today on Caddo Convos is Wes Desmond of Wesley Desmond Law. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So let's talk about why you became an attorney and how you help your clients.
Well, I became an attorney because when I was going to college, trying to decide what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to be a prosecutor coming out. That's how I started off, and was a prosecutor out in Virginia. When my wife and I found out we were going to have our first child, we decided to move back to where her parents and my parents were and are. That's here in Collin County, so in Frisco now. So we moved back. We've now had many more children. We got 4 kids. But just wanted to be around family, and when we moved out here, I decided to start my own firm. So that's how I started off, and wanted to get into the defense side because I enjoyed that side of it. Felt that I would enjoy that side of it much more than the prosecutor side. It just wasn't. It was more suited for me. I like being involved with the person, getting to know them, their case. It's always more than just a case file and a charge and an accusation. Getting to know them, their situation and everything, advocating on their behalf. It is something that I felt I was better suited for than just being on the prosecutor side.
Is there a certain client that you look for and can help most?
Okay. So I would say that my firm deals a lot with the DFW area, so specifically the courts, Denton, Collin County, sometimes Dallas County, but if I can help it, I don't like to. But mostly the cases, I started off doing a lot of DWIs because that's one that was more prevalent, especially in a county like Collin.
Okay.
But nowadays, I'll do mental health cases. Family violence is another one, any kind of assault charges. There's all kinds of, possession cases, really anything involving criminal offenses. But on the other side of it, there's also what's called mental health civil commitments.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Sure. So I deal with 2 types of mental health cases. There are mental health cases where someone is brought to a mental health facility, a hospital, and held against their will. So it's called an involuntary patient. I deal with a lot of those cases where I'm representing the patient and either themselves or maybe both. They and their loved ones feel that they do not need to be in there, that they should not be in there, and you have the right to a contested hearing in those cases. I assist with that. And then on the second kind of cases, on criminal cases, a lot of times, and we're dealing with this more and more, the accused in the criminal case suffers from a mental illness.
Yeah.
And it's a separate part of the case, and it's a situation where at times you might be able to utilize the treatment for mental illness as a justification for why they should not have the criminal charge really held against them and on their permanent record, because it's a situation where they're not normally criminally inclined, you might say. Mm-hmm. This was something that is not likely to repeat itself because of the mental health treatment that, first, usually it's a diagnosis after the fact. Mm-hmm. So they weren't even diagnosed and receiving any treatment beforehand. And so I basically mental health cases, both sides, just on the civil side, being held in a hospital against their will. And then second, on the criminal side, which is, again, more and more. In fact, Collin County just built a whole new building by the courthouse just for mental health.
Yeah.
And when you know how many different hospitals in Collin County, we're talking a lot of hospitals, they have their own behavioral health units specifically for mental health. And so we're finding that most of these criminal cases that just keep popping up, undiagnosed mental health issues. And if it would have been diagnosed and treatment was carried out, they actually did go forward with treatment, that on the criminal side, they either wouldn't have the criminal cases or it wouldn't at the very least continue.
How do you become someone's defense attorney?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different ways. So I started off when I first created the firm, it was getting on like court-appointed wheels. Okay. So courts would ask me to take on indigent defendants, so people who couldn't afford to hire their own attorney. Then came building a website and having
the business side
marketing, right? And I don't market really anymore. I really wanted to get away from that as quickly as possible because I wanted clients to be seeking me out rather than the opposite, me seeking clients out. But have the website so that people can go and learn more about myself and the law firm, and then just word of mouth.
Yeah.
So I still am on the court-appointed wheel for only Collin County, and I'm retained for work usually in Denton, Collin, and sometimes I'll accept a Dallas case if it's compelling. Dallas I've tried to avoid it as much as possible due to the delays ever since 2020 and some issues. After that, Dallas County has become very inefficient, in my opinion.
Right. One man's opinion. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I'm pretty sure it's a consensus opinion. But, taking on Dallas County cases, you either are consumed with Dallas County and that's all of your work and you're spending all the time at that courthouse, or you're not, and the vast majority of your time is spent at other counties. So if you take on one, you need to take on more than that for Dallas, so that you're spending more time there.
You're biting off a lot.
Right. Maybe. So basically, serious cases, very serious offenses, where family members are wanting me to assist either someone like in the jail who's not able to get out facing charges. But yeah, I'll handle some Dallas.
Interesting. So we've been talking about location, and before we started the show, you're talking about being centrally located.
Sure.
Let's talk about you're in the Frisco location of the Caddo Office Reimagined, correct?
Right.
Why did you choose that location?
Well, I've actually been there since April of 2014. So when that building opened.
Okay. Under another name. Yeah.
Right. And just been there ever since. I wanted something that was close to my house, and I wasn't sure which courthouses I was going to be working at most. In fact, at the beginning, I worked 15 different counties when I first opened up. So it wasn't so much about choosing an office that was close to a particular courthouse. It was choosing an office that was close to where I was living. And it just turned out that that location sits in both Collin and Denton County, and is really close to the tollway, so getting to Dallas was not an issue at all. So it's a good location for not necessarily being close to the courthouse, but being close to clients. So just centrally located in Frisco by the tollway on Main Street. It's something to where I maintain that office, and if I ever do anything else, it would be expanding to a second or third location. Maybe those would be closer to the courthouses. But I find that clients actually appreciate not being over there by the courthouse, which in Collin's case, it's a still relatively new courthouse, so they don't have many offices by it.
Right. It's kind of out by itself.
Really. Yeah. The old location, it was a lot of offices, just right there by the courthouse. So, it's my office location, and it actually turned out to be a benefit for me.
Excellent. So, yeah, you were there before and still with.
Sure.
You mentioned other locations. There are 9 locations for the Caddo Office Reimagined, kind of all over the place. Would you recommend them to other people in your profession? Yeah,
I think they're great. And one of the things I love about just the company and all of the different locations, just being able to have my central location where I have all of my stuff, But most people these days, they operate their business maybe out of the house, or they have to be able to be mobile. And the fact that I can go to these different locations and rent out a meeting room, or just have a place where I know that they have. Today, I showed up early. And I just found a quiet spot, tables, chairs, just business atmosphere. And I worked on, I'm going to have a client meeting here in an hour or two. I just wanted to review everything beforehand and make sure I'm, familiar with facts and everything before every location's like that, has that available to the client. So just having that and having the ability to reserve those conference rooms, it really is a wonderful thing especially for someone like me who meets with clients often. Yeah. And I can do that closer to where they are sometimes. So
that's terrific.
Yeah.
Tell me a success story. You mentioned, obviously what you do is a passionate thing. You're using a lot of your talents and your education to help people better their lives.
Sure.
Or save their lives from, incarceration, permanent. Tell me about a couple of success stories or one that stands out for you.
Well, okay. So, I could go with a lot of different kinds, and I've actually done a lot of different types of law, whether it's civil litigation, criminal, and the like. But I think the better way to answer your question is what motivated me to even go into law, and then what I really justified and kind of sold the idea of defense work to me was taking on a family member's case. So what made me want to be a prosecutor was and go to law school in general was my grandma was actually killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
And she had just survived. It was a miracle. She was in the hospital, basically hospice, with cancer all throughout her body. It was diagnosed. She was supposed to be dead within months. And all of a sudden, she is just miraculously healed. No cancer throughout her body. She's able to go home. She's doing great. Oh. And then, within months, she's killed by a drunk driver in an accident. Runs a red light.
To have survived all that.
Yeah, and it's just something that really, affected my family. And I was passionate about being a prosecutor, but then I moved back and. One of the things I dealt with almost immediately was a family member who was arrested for an assault, family violence charge, false charge.
Falsely arrested and false charge.
Well, and one of the things that you learn...
not falsely, arrested, period.
Arrested, for false allegations, basically. Gotcha. And what you find is that the criminal justice system, and one of the reasons, again, why I could... not justified, but really was drawn to the defense side is just things that people don't know about the criminal justice system, how it works, such as someone calls 911 and it's a domestic disturbance. Domestic disturbance could be a stranger or a neighbor calling about an arguing couple, or an arguing couple calling 911. And a lot of times you'll see this because they feel that, an officer needs to get involved because they need someone to kind of referee this, get in between, not necessarily because any crime is being committed, but it's labeled as a domestic disturbance, and just how procedures work. Officers and in courts with criminal cases, and what you find is that if an officer is called out on a domestic disturbance, almost every time, in a kind of a unwritten policy, unwritten rule for officers, is they're responding to a domestic disturbance, someone's getting arrested.
Yeah.
Someone's getting arrested. And so, if someone calls 911, it's an arguing couple. Most of the time, it's going to be the male, but sometimes the female. It just depends. But someone's getting arrested, and even if no one is wanting to prosecute, no one is actually wanting someone to be arrested. So I had a family member who was arrested in those circumstances where it was an improper 911 call. There was no criminal offense occurring, and family member was arrested, and just taking on that matter, knowing on the other side of that how that was possible, how it does work out that way, and just finding out how in the criminal justice system there are many people who are arrested and either they did nothing wrong, or it's maybe being overcharged, so facing consequences that are going to affect their future. It's just going to wipe out their ability to do anything that they planned on, that they dreamed about. and helping those kinds of clients. It's why I do what I do. It's why I'm passionate about it. So
that's excellent.
Yeah.
What is the best way to contact you?
You can go to the website, wesdesmondlaw.com. Leave out the T, so it's just WESDESMONDLAW.com. You go there, you can. That'll have my office line on it, but it has my phone number and everything. You can contact me that way. You can also send me an email, but that's all on the website.
Excellent. So parting thoughts on, what advice would you give to people who have found themselves in a situation they need an attorney? What's their next step?
Well, first thing, if you're the accused, if you find that you're being questioned or you've been stopped by an officer, under the law, you have to do certain things and you don't have to do other things. First thing you have to do is you have to provide your identification. So that means that you have to give your name and your date of birth so they can look you up and see if you have any active warrants. If you're driving and you're pulled over, you also have to give your proof of driver's license and proof of insurance. But apart from that, if you're being accused of any kind of crime, if you're under investigation, best advice I could give is exercise your right to silence, exercise your right to an attorney, because everyone thinks, even if they're 100% innocent, that they can talk their way or provide some kind of information that will be effective in ending the investigation or, help them get out of the criminal charge. And it's actually the opposite. It's anything you say can and will be used against you, but the law does not say used in your favor. Right. And there's a reason for that. So the best advice I could give is exercise your right to silence, exercise your right to an attorney, and call an attorney, call a family member. As soon as you're booked in at the jail, you call a family member and you get an attorney involved.
Excellent. Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you and learning a bit. Obviously, the things we all think we know something about the legal profession from all these TV shows, but
sure.
But it's garbage, right? So not necessarily. It's drama. Yeah.
It's sure.
But I enjoyed talking to you and hearing all of this. So thank you for being on the Caddo Convos today.
Thank you again for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on the Caddo Convos podcast. A huge shout out to our incredible network of members for making our community vibrant and supportive. If you're looking to boost your productivity and reduce the isolation of working from home, consider joining us at Caddo Office Reimagined. Our spaces are designed to meet your evolving needs, support remote work, and foster a sense of community that's hard to find at home. Whether you're a startup aiming for growth, a freelancer seeking a professional setting, or a company looking to optimize resources, Caddo offers a perfect blend of flexibility and innovation. By joining us, you'll be a part of a dynamic business ecosystem that helps you thrive. For more information, visit caddooffices.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Caddo Convos.